I never imagined that frozen pizza and hidden cameras would be how my stepdaughter discovered the truth I'd been hiding for 30 years. But there I was, standing in my kitchen in Evanston, Illinois, at 9 p.m. on a Thursday, kissing another woman for the first time in my life, completely unaware that Madison was watching every second on her phone from her condo in downtown Chicago. The woman's name was Samantha Torres, 51, photography professor at Northwestern. We'd met at a grief support group 6 months after my husband Richard died, Madison's father, the man I'd loved for 25 years, or thought I'd loved. Now I'm not so sure what love is anymore. Sam had come over to help me sort through Richard's photography equipment. He'd been an amateur photographer, had an entire room full of cameras and lenses and tripods. Sam had offered to help me figure out what to keep, what to donate, what might be valuable. We'd been working for 3 hours, laughing, sharing stories about Richard, drinking wine. Too much wine, maybe. She just told me about her own coming out story at 47, 4 years after her divorce. How terrifying it had been, how liberating. I spent my whole life trying to be what everyone expected, she'd said, her dark eyes holding mine. The perfect wife, the perfect mother. And I was dying inside. I'd felt something crack open in my chest. I understand that more than you know. She'd moved closer. We were standing by the kitchen island, the pendant lights casting soft shadows. "Rebecca," she'd whispered, "can I ask you something?" "Yes." Have you ever thought about being with a woman?" My heart had stopped again. Yes, when I was younger, but I never. I got married and I buried it. What if you didn't have to bury it anymore? And then she'd kissed me. Soft at first, tentative, her lips tasting of Merlot and possibility. I'd frozen for maybe 2 seconds. Then I'd kissed her back. Really kissed her. 30 years of suppressed desire flooding through me like a dam breaking. Her hands in my hair, my hands on her waist, kissing like teenagers, desperate and clumsy and perfect. We'd pulled apart breathless. "Oh my God," I'd whispered. "I know," Sam had said, smiling. "I've wanted to do that for months." What we didn't know was that Madison had installed 4 cameras throughout my house 3 weeks earlier, and she just watched everything. My name is Rebecca Chen-Morrison, and for 54 years I lived the life everyone expected me to live. I was born in San Francisco to Chinese immigrant parents who'd worked themselves to exhaustion running a dry cleaning business. They had one dream for me: marry well, have children, bring honor to the family. No deviation, no questions. When I was 21 and in graduate school at Berkeley studying art history, I'd fallen in love with my roommate. Her name was Lily. We'd kissed once, just once, in our tiny shared apartment after too many beers and a late-night conversation about what we really wanted from life. The kiss had been everything. Electric, terrifying, right? But the next morning, Lily had panicked. "We can't. My parents would disown me. This can't happen." And I'd agreed, because my parents would have done worse than disown me. They would have died of shame. So I'd buried it, dated men, convinced myself that what I'd felt for Lily was just confusion, just a phase, just nothing. I'd met Richard Morrison at 29. He was 35, an economics professor at Northwestern. Stable, kind, safe. He'd proposed after 6 months. My parents had cried with joy. A professor, respected, good family, American but educated. It was everything they'd wanted. I'd said yes because saying no would have meant explaining why, and I couldn't explain why because I didn't fully understand it myself. Our marriage had been fine. Richard was a good man, a good father to Madison when she came along 2 years later. He never raised his voice, never cheated, never gave me any reason to complain. But there was always something missing, some spark that I saw in other couples, some passion that I couldn't quite access. I'd blamed myself, thought I was broken somehow, incapable of deep romantic feeling. Richard never seemed to notice. Or maybe he did and just didn't say anything. Maybe he was fine with fine. We'd built a life. A
beautiful house in Evanston. Madison grew up smart and driven, got into Yale, became a lawyer, married young to a man named Derek who worked in finance. Our life looked perfect from the outside. Inside, it was empty. Not bad, just hollow. And then Richard got sick. Pancreatic cancer. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday in March, stage 4. The doctor had given him 6 months. He'd lasted 8. 8 months of hospitals and chemo and watching the man I'd spent 25 years with waste away to nothing. Madison had been devastated. She'd always been a daddy's girl. They were so similar. Logical, practical, numbers people. I'd been the artistic one, the one who liked museums and poetry. Madison had never quite understood me. She loved me, but she didn't get me. Richard's death had been complicated for me. I'd grieved, really grieved, for the life we'd had, for the man who'd been kind to me, for the father Madison had lost. But underneath the grief was something else, something I didn't want to examine too closely. Relief. Not relief that he was dead, but relief that I was free. For the first time in my life, there was no one expecting me to be a certain way. My parents had died years ago. My mother when I was 40, my father 2 years later. Madison was an adult with her own life, and Richard was gone. I was 54 years old, widowed, alone in a big house. And for the first time ever, I could ask myself the question I'd been avoiding my entire life. What do I actually want? The grief support group had been Madison's idea. Mom, you need to be around people. You can't just sit in that house alone. So I'd gone. Tuesday evenings at the Evanston Community Center. 8 people who'd lost spouses, most of them older than me, sharing tissues and stories and bad coffee. That's where I'd met Sam. She'd lost her partner, Emma, to a car accident 2 years earlier. They'd been together for 6 years, openly, proudly. When she'd introduced herself that first night, she'd said it without hesitation. I'm Sam, my partner Emma died in 2021. We were together for 6 years. She was the love of my life. The casualness of it had stunned me, the way she could just say it, own it, not hide. Over the weeks, Sam and I had started talking after the meetings, coffee at the Starbucks down the street, then dinners, then long walks along Lake Michigan. She told me about her life, her marriage to a man in her 20s, her 2 kids, now grown, her slow realization in her 40s that she'd been living a lie, her divorce, her coming out, her relationship with Emma. It was terrifying, she'd said one evening as we watched the sunset over the lake. 47 years old, 2 kids, a career, a reputation, and I had to blow it all up to be honest about who I was. Do you regret it? Never. Not for 1 second. Those 6 years with Emma were worth more than the 20 years I spent pretending. I thought about that conversation for weeks. Worth more than 20 years of pretending. Was that what I'd been doing? Pretending? Madison had started calling more frequently after Richard's death, multiple times a day. Mom, did you eat lunch? Mom, have you been outside today? Mom, I'm worried about you. At first, I'd appreciated it. Then it had started to feel suffocating. She'd come over unannounced, let herself in with the key she'd had since high school, comment on the dishes in the sink, the mail piling up, the curtains still closed at noon. Mom, you need to take care of yourself. I am taking care of myself, Madison. You're not. You're different. You're distant. I'm grieving. It's been 4 months. At some point, you need to start living again. 4 months. As if grief had a timer. As if I could just move on. What she didn't understand was that I was living, really living, for the first time.
I was reading books I actually wanted to read, listening to music Richard had hated, eating Chinese food for breakfast because I could, making decisions without considering what anyone else wanted. It was liberating, but I couldn't explain that to Madison. How do you tell your daughter that your husband's death had freed you? That you weren't just grieving, you were discovering yourself. So I'd said the things she wanted to hear. You're right. I'll try harder.
The cameras had appeared without me knowing. Madison had installed them during one of her visits while I was in the shower. 4 tiny cameras. One in the living room, hidden in a bookshelf. One in the kitchen, tucked behind the coffee maker. One in the hallway. One in the den. Not in the bedrooms, not in the bathrooms. Just watching, making sure I was okay. That's what she'd tell herself, that she was protecting me. What she was really doing was trying to control me, trying to keep me frozen in the role of grieving widow. Acceptable, understandable, safe. I didn't know about the cameras when Sam first kissed me that Thursday night. Didn't know when we'd pulled apart breathlessly and I'd said, I've thought about it, but I've never been with a woman. Never even kissed one, except once when I was 21, but that was nothing. Sam had smiled, taken my hand. Rebecca, you don't have to explain. You don't have to have your whole life figured out. We can just see what this is. No pressure. But what if I'm just confused? What if this is just grief or loneliness, or what if it's not? She'd kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, and I'd felt it. That spark I'd been missing for 25 years. That rightness, like something broken inside me was finally clicking into place. We'd moved to the couch, kissing, touching, nothing more than that. Just discovering. Learning what it felt like to touch a woman, to be touched by a woman. Sam's hands were soft. Her lips tasted of wine. Her hair smelled like jasmine. Everything about her was different, better, right. We'd fallen asleep on the couch around midnight. Sam had left around 1 a.m. I should go, but can I see you again? Yes, God, yes. After she'd left, I'd sat in my living room in the dark, touching my lips, smiling like a teenager. 54 years old, and I'd just had my first real kiss. Meanwhile, across town, Madison was staring at her phone in horror. She'd been checking the cameras sporadically since installing them, making sure I was eating, sleeping, functioning. That evening, she'd checked at 9 p.m., seen me and Sam in the kitchen, watched us talking, laughing, and then watched us kiss. She'd sat frozen, unable to look away, watching her mother, her 54-year-old widowed mother, kissing another woman, kissing her like that. Madison had immediately called Derek. I need you to watch something. What? Babe, I'm in the middle of... Just watch. She'd sent him the video clip, heard his sharp intake of breath. Is that your mom? Yes. With a woman? Yes. Madison. I know. What do I do? Maybe you don't do anything. Maybe it's none of our business. None of our business? Derek, my father just died 8 months ago. 8 months. And she's kissing women? She's an adult. She's allowed to. She's my mother. The next day, Madison had called me, her voice tight, controlled. Mom, can we have lunch tomorrow? It's important. Of course. Is everything okay? We just need to talk. If you're enjoying this story, please consider subscribing to our channel for more compelling LGBTQ+ narratives. We'd met at a café in downtown Evanston.
Madison had been waiting when I arrived, looking professional in her lawyer suit, but her face was hard. "Hi, honey. You look nice. How's work?" "Mom, we need to talk." "Okay, what's going on?" She'd pulled out her phone, opened an app I didn't recognize. "I need to show you something." The video had started playing, me and Sam, in my kitchen, kissing. My blood had run cold. "What? What is this?" "I installed cameras in your house 3 weeks ago." The café had disappeared. The other diners, the noise, everything had narrowed to Madison's face, to the phone in her hand. "You installed cameras. I was worried about you. You weren't answering your phone. You were acting strange. So you spied on me? I was protecting you." Protecting me. My voice had risen. "By invading my privacy, by watching me without my knowledge." "Mom, lower your voice." No, I will not lower my voice. How dare you? How dare I? "Mom, Dad has been dead for 8 months. 8 months. And you're already with someone, with a woman." The word came out like an accusation. "Madison, are you gay?"
The question had hung in the air, heavy, loaded. I'd wanted to lie, to deflect, to make it easier, but something in me had shifted. That kiss with Sam had changed something. I don't know. Maybe. I think I might be. Madison had looked like I'd slapped her. "You think you might be? Mom, you were married to Dad for 25 years. "I know. You have a daughter. You've been living as a straight woman your entire life." "I know. So what? What, you were lying the whole time?" No, I loved your father." "But you're gay." "I don't know. Madison, I don't know what I am. All I know is that for the first time in my life, I'm trying to figure out what I actually want instead of what everyone expects me to want." "What we expect? Mom, no one's been expecting anything from you." "That's not true. Your grandparents expected me to marry a man, to have children, to bring honor to the family. You expected me to be the perfect grieving widow, to stay frozen in sadness forever." "I never said that. You didn't have to. Every phone call, every visit, every time you checked on me like I was a child who couldn't take care of herself." Madison's eyes had filled with tears. "I was worried about you. You were trying to control me. That's not fair. Installing cameras in my home without my knowledge? How was that not control?" Because Dad just died and I can't lose you too." The truth had finally come out. Madison's tears had started falling. "I can't lose you too, Mom. You're all I have left." I'd reached across the table, taken her hand. "You're not losing me. I'm light here." "But you're different. You're not the mom I know." "Maybe the mom you knew was never really me." We'd sat in silence for a long moment. Then Madison had pulled her hand away. "I need time to process this." "Okay. And Mom, you need to remove those cameras. All of them." "I know. I will. Today." She'd stood, gathered her purse. "I'll call you in a few days." Then she'd left, and I'd sat alone at that cafe table, feeling lighter, despite everything. Despite the invasion of privacy, despite Madison's reaction, I'd finally told the truth, for the first time in my life. The next few weeks had been difficult. Madison hadn't called, hadn't responded to my texts. Derek had finally reached out. "She needs time, Rebecca. It's a lot for her." "I understand. But Derek, I'm still her mother. I'm still the same person." "Are you, though?" The question had stung, but it was fair. Was I the same person? Or had I been playing a role for so long that no one, including myself, knew who I really was? Sam had been patient through it all. "You don't owe anyone an explanation about who you are," she'd said. "But she's my daughter, and you're her mother. But you're also a person,
with your own life, your own desires, your own truth. We'd been taking things slowly, dating, learning each other. She'd introduced me to her kids. Both had been welcoming. Her daughter, Emma Jr., had hugged me. I'm so glad Mom found someone. She's been alone too long. Her son Marcus had been more reserved but kind. Just be good to her. She deserves happiness. And I thought about that. Deserve. Did I deserve happiness? After 25 years of a mediocre marriage? After burying who I was? After lying to everyone, including myself? Did I deserve this second chance? Sam thought I did. Rebecca, everyone deserves to live authentically. You spent 54 years being what everyone else needed. Now it's your turn. 6 weeks after the café confrontation, Madison had finally called. Can we talk? Really talk this time? Yes, please. We'd met at my house. She'd looked tired. I've been seeing a therapist, she'd started, to help me process everything. That's good. She's helped me realize some things about Dad, about you, about me. Madison had taken a deep breath. I idolized Dad. He was my hero. Logical, stable, everything made sense with him. And you were more complicated, more emotional. I never really understood you. I know. And when Dad died, I couldn't handle it. So I tried to keep everything else exactly the same, including you. I needed you to stay frozen, the grieving widow, the mother I knew. Because if you changed too, then I'd lost everything. Madison. But my therapist helped me see that. That wasn't fair to you. That you're allowed to live your own life, to be whoever you are. The tears had come, for both of us. I'm sorry I installed those cameras. That was a violation of your privacy, your trust, everything. Thank you for saying that. And I'm sorry for how I reacted to Sam, to you being gay or bi or whatever you are. I'm still figuring that out. I know. And that's okay. You should be allowed to figure it out. We'd hugged then, really hugged, for the first time in months. Can I meet her? Sam? Properly this time? You want to meet her? I want to try, to understand, to see what makes you happy. A week later, the three of us had dinner at my house. Madison had been nervous. Sam had been gracious. I had been terrified, but it had gone well. Better than well. They talked about photography, about grief, about family, about life. At one point, Madison had asked the question I'd been dreading. How did you know that you liked women? Sam had looked at me, letting me decide how much to share. I think I always knew, I'd said, but I buried it. Because it was easier. Because my family. Because society. Because I was scared. But you're not scared anymore. Oh, I'm terrified. Every day. But I'm also more myself than I've ever been. And that's worth the fear. Madison had nodded slowly. Dad would have wanted you to be happy. You know that, right? I hope so. He would have. He told me once. Near the end, he said, make sure your mother lives her life after I'm gone. Make sure she doesn't just disappear. The words had broken something open in me. Richard had known. Maybe not about Sam, maybe not about any of this, but he'd known that I'd been smaller than I should be, and he'd wanted more for me. 6 months after the cameras, after the confrontation, after the therapy and the tears and the slow rebuilding, Madison had invited Sam and me to dinner at her condo. Derek had made his famous lasagna. We'd drunk too much wine, laughed too loud. It had felt normal. At one point, Madison had pulled me aside. Mom, I want to say something. Okay? I'm proud of you. I'd looked at her, really looked at her, and seen acceptance, understanding, maybe even admiration. Thank you. That means everything. I mean it. It takes courage to start over, to be honest about who you are, especially at 54. 55 now. Birthday was last week. I know. That's actually... Sam and I have been talking. You've been talking. She wants to know if you'd be open to a surprise party next month. Nothing big, just close friends, us, her kids, a few people from the grief group. Madison, what? You've been planning a party with my girlfriend? The word had felt strange on my tongue. Girlfriend. At 55. But also, right. Madison had grinned. Is that what she is? Your girlfriend? I think so. We haven't really defined it. Well, maybe it's time to define it. Because she's serious about you, Mom. And I think you're serious about her too. That night, after dinner, Sam and I had walked along the lake, Chicago's skyline glittering across the water. Madison told me about the party, I'd said. She did? Are you mad? No, I'm touched that she cares, that you two are conspiring together. Sam had laughed. She's a good kid. Took her a minute, but she came around. She did. We'd walked in silence for a bit. Then Sam had stopped, turned to face me. Rebecca, I need to ask you something. Okay? What are we, you and me? Because I'm falling in love with you, and I need to know if this is real for you, or if you're just figuring things out. My heart had started racing. Sam, it's okay if you're not ready, if you need more time. But I'm 51 years old. I've already wasted too much of my life on relationships that weren't right. And this feels right. You feel right. I'm falling in love with you too, I'd whispered. I think I've been falling since that first grief group meeting. But I'm scared because I don't know how to do this, how to be in a relationship with a woman, how to be out. We do it together, one day at a time. She'd kissed me then, right there on the lakefront path, with joggers passing by, with the city lights reflecting off the water, with the whole world watching, and I hadn't cared. For the first time in my life, I didn't care who saw me, who knew, what they thought, because this was real. This was right. This was me. Today, a year after the cameras, after the discovery, after everything, Sam and I live together in my house in Evanston. We've turned Richard's photography room into a shared studio, her equipment mixed with his, old life and new life coexisting. Madison comes for dinner every Sunday. Sometimes Derek joins. Sometimes it's just the three of us, women, figuring out this new configuration of family. Sam's kids visit once a month. They call me Rebecca, not Mom, but with warmth, with acceptance. I've learned that coming out at 55 is different. There's grief mixed with the joy. Grief for the years I lost, for the life I didn't live, for the version of myself I kept hidden. But there's also freedom, relief, authenticity. I look back at those cameras now, at Madison's desperate attempt to keep me frozen, and I realize something. She wasn't trying to trap me. She was trying to hold on to the last piece of her father, the life they'd known, the family that made sense. But in trying to hold on, she'd forced me to let go, to finally be free. The cameras are gone now. Madison removed them herself, apologized, made a donation to a privacy rights organization. But sometimes I think about them, about how they captured the moment everything changed, the moment I stopped pretending, started living, kissed a woman in my kitchen, and felt, for the first time in my life, like I was home, because that's what it was. That kiss, that moment, that discovery, it was coming home to myself, finally, after 55 years. And no camera, no surveillance, no watching could ever take that away from me, because now I know who I am, what I want, and what I deserve. And I deserve this love, this life, this truth, all of it. Thank you for joining Rebecca's journey. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel for more authentic LGBTQ+ stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to live your truth.